I often get called a common law lawyer, so it's important to kind of create that distinction. What I do is more natural law. We actually use equity law. Common law, it's got its elements that can be used in their jurisdiction, but it's not a defence in and of itself. It's a little bit of a...
That's what I was going to say, that what's the difference between them?
Yeah.
It's very confusing, isn't it?
It's a little bit of a psyop in itself, I say. You'll see that, you use the common law, or I'm a freeman of the land, etc. and so forth, but it becomes about jurisdiction, and my latest talk is called Status, Jurisdiction and Banking, because when we know who we are, when we start to understand our true status, because the system's always trying to lower our status to be under them. They call it the Justinian deception. When we give up our inalienable rights for the benefits and privileges of the state, it's all a deception and a con, and our parents or our mothers actually sign us into that system. Sign means sign of nature, it's a sigil, it's a mark of the beast. You see, our surnames are classed as mark of the beast, which take us into a maritime jurisdiction, which is their jurisdiction. So the common law is a thing, it's no harm, no injury, no loss. If you cause harm, injury or loss and there's a victim, it's a crime. If you cause harm, injury or loss in a financial manner, it's a civil tort. So it's not that the common law isn't a thing, it's case law, it's precedent, it holds its own ground. But statutes and acts, which is legislation, has bastardised the common law. It was an act called the Judicature Act, which merged the lower courts, which basically means that legislation trumps the rest of it, really. So like I say, you can't take a common law defence into a statutory jurisdiction.
Into a normal court.
Into a normal court, which is their jurisdiction, Admiralty and Maritime, because they can't hear you. They can't hear a living man or a woman, because that's why they create the dead fictional you. That's why they create the straw man, the all caps name. Black's Law dictionary definition of a person, and you don't ever want to be a person, is a corporation, C corporation. They are in commerce and contract, and corporation means dead speak. The dead can't speak to the living, so they can't hear the living man or woman, which is us. They can only speak to the dead fiction, and they want to act upon you. So as I say, the clue is in the title with statutes and acts. It's a good piece of theatre, but that's all that it is.
So the natural and spiritual law, how do we use that to protect ourselves if the common law isn't, 100%, effective? How does the natural and spiritual law work?
So again, for me, I always say spirit is remedy because it's know thyself. When we know that we are living men and women and that we have inalienable rights under the Creator. It was the first trust that was given to us, the land in perpetuity, for the beneficiaries, our children, and we are children of the Creator in infinity, in infinitum. So like I say, I always use the Creator. I don't use God because there's 7 different meanings in the Bible for the word God, and there's different things attributed to it. And as I say, you might call the Creator source, or you might call it 5D consciousness. The Bible, and I do make a lot of biblical scripture references because it's the antithesis to their system. Their system is a Roman satanic civil system, and this is why they're constantly getting us to create break the Creator's laws. So natural law, spiritual law is understanding who we are and operating from the private and removing ourselves from the jurisdiction, which is why I say when you know your true status as a living man and a woman and as a child of the Creator, where we were given the land, the air and the water, and that's what the law is, LAW, the land, the air and the water, and we were given dominion over them in Genesis.
Wow.
So we take that back under natural law.
Can you give us some tips on how to use natural and spiritual law in our daily lives?
Yeah. Like I said, there's 2 realms that operate. There's the public and the private realm. And as I was saying, we were given the land under the first trust from the Creator. It's a very Ickian principle and philosophy that if you are born onto a planet where you have to pay to clothe yourself, pay to feed yourself, for shelter, you are born onto a prison planet. It's David Icke's book, Prison Planet. I read that back in my 20s, And basically the Vatican came in 1302, Pope Boniface, and put the whole planet into the first express trust deed. So basically we were always slaves, physical slaves. The Jesuit bankers just found a way to create slaves on paper. So they put that trust over us, and it's stood ever since, because we didn't know. and we've forgotten who we are. So the main way of understanding natural law is know thyself, like it says in scripture. And like I say, I'm not into organised religion at all. I should make that clear, like I do in my talks. Religion means from the Latin religiare, to thwart, to hold back, to bind.